We'll start off like that. So you and Doug Christie renew your vows every single year.
Yeah.
And I see you guys have a book out also.
Yeah.
Talking about, I guess, how to make your marriage and
Basketball. We've been together, 20 plus years. We've been married for 21 years now. We just had our 21st wedding. We went to Napa.
Then Christy never saw it coming. For over 2 decades, he believed he was living a dream, a loving marriage with Jackie Christie, a daughter he adored, and a life that seemed untouchable. But in one devastating moment, the illusion shattered. The DNA test results that landed in his hands didn't just reveal the truth. They detonated a bomb that left his world in pieces. Chantel, the daughter he had cherished since the day she was born, was not biologically his, and the man who was? None other than his former teammate, NBA icon Chris Webber. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was a calculated deception that spanned years, involving lies, manipulation, and a conspiracy that would leave even the most seasoned courtroom veterans stunned.
Literally, and if y'all ever seen that promo, we was actually doing our show for BET, which was the Christie's Committee, and I put that Gucci dog leash around his neck, to make fun of what everybody was saying. It's like, why can't this African-American man, or just man, period, love his wife? And he's an athlete, he can still be a jock and be and all that, but he just respects his queen, and he is my king. So,
and you should keep your woman around you. That's how you stay out of trouble.
There it is. That's right.
That's the truth to the matter.
Imagine Doug sitting in the courtroom, his hands trembling as he gripped the damning papers. The silence in the room was deafening, broken only by the sound of Jackie collapsing to her knees, tearfully begging for forgiveness. The truth had finally caught up with her, and the weight of her lies was too much to bear. Chris, who had spent years denying his involvement, was nowhere to be found. The man who had once been Doug's brother on the court was now his greatest enemy. And Jackie, the woman Doug had defended, loved, and built a life with, was at the center of it all. Every moment of their marriage, every vow renewed, every family photo, they were all built on a lie. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was a public humiliation of the highest order. Jackie Christie, the so-called queen of reality TV and self-proclaimed matriarch of basketball wives, had built her entire career on the facade of a perfect family. For years, she portrayed herself as the devoted wife and mother, a strong black woman who held her family together despite the pressures of fame. But now, as her empire crumbled around her, the world was seeing the truth. Jackie's perfect image was nothing more than a meticulously crafted illusion. And Doug? He wasn't just a victim. He was a man on a mission to reclaim his dignity and expose the lies that had robbed him of 20 years of his life. The courtroom became a battleground. Doug's legal team wasted no time tearing down the carefully constructed walls of Jackie's deceit. They presented evidence that left no room for doubt. A fraudulent birth certificate listing Doug as Chantel's father, despite Jackie's knowledge of the truth, journal entries in Jackie's own handwriting, confessing that she had always suspected Chris was the biological father, and perhaps the most damning piece of evidence, a leaked voicemail from Jackie to Chris, urging him to stick to the story and avoid any public acknowledgement of Chantel's paternity. It was a masterclass in manipulation, and Jackie was the star of the show.
How do you really hope to heal your family after this? Because I don't think your intention was to bring your family on this show and have all this kind of stuff. So how are you approaching that?
But the lies didn't stop at the birth certificate. According to rumors swirling behind the scenes, Jackie had allegedly used Chantel's paternity as leverage against Chris for years. Insiders close to the situation claimed that Jackie blackmailed Chris into funding her lavish lifestyle, using the threat of exposing their secret to keep him lying. Was Chris Webber forced to bankroll Jackie's business ventures, knowing that one slip-up could destroy his reputation? Details of hidden payments, suspicious consulting fees, and untraceable cash deposits began to surface, painting a picture of a woman who wasn't just deceitful. She was calculating. The lengths Jackie allegedly went to in order to protect her empire were as shocking as they were ruthless. And then there was Chantel, caught in the middle of this storm of lies and betrayal. For years, she had lived under the assumption that Doug was her father. She celebrated Father's Days with him, leaned on him for support, and shared moments that now felt like scripted scenes in a twisted drama. How do you reconcile the fact that the man who raised you, who loved you unconditionally, isn't your biological father? And how do you face the truth that your mother, your protector, was the one who orchestrated the lie? Chantel wasn't just a victim, she was a pawn in Jackie's game. And the emotional toll was immeasurable.
Yes, and we'll deal with it. There's other people in the situation outside of Takari that's kind of like a little group of people that's, saying that they're going to make millions of dollars off of this. And I guess that's their employment. So, it's unfortunate. I'll deal with that legally when that time.
Doug, however, refused to crumble. While Jackie spiraled, lashing out on social media and making cryptic posts about loyalty and betrayal, Doug stayed silent. His quiet dignity and refusal to engage in the public spectacle only made his case stronger. He wasn't interested in revenge. He wanted justice. Not just for himself, but for every man who had been deceived in the same way. Doug became a symbol of resilience, a man determined to turn his pain into a message. And the public rallied behind him with hashtags like Justice for Doug trending across social media. The court of public opinion had spoken, and Jackie's days as reality TV royalty were officially over. But Chris Webber wasn't off the hook either. While Jackie's lies were front and center, Chris's silence spoke volumes. For years, he had played along, attending family events, posing for photos, and pretending that Chantel was nothing more than his teammate's daughter. His refusal to come forward, even when he suspected the truth, made him complicit in the deception. And now, as the scandal unfolded, Chris found himself facing not just public scrutiny, but potential legal consequences. Rumors swirled that Doug's legal team was preparing to file a separate lawsuit against Chris for emotional distress and financial damages. The once beloved NBA star was now fighting to salvage what was left of his reputation.
Doug, what do you say when people say your wife's around all the time? Why?
This is my best friend, my everything. We have other business ventures together. We do so much together, and also we just enjoy being around each other. So I say, butt out and mind your own business.
As the courtroom drama unfolded, the media frenzy reached a fever pitch. Every detail of the case was dissected, analyzed, and debated. Was Jackie truly the mastermind behind the deception, or was Chris equally to blame? Could Chantel ever forgive her mother for the years of lies? And what would Doug's next move be? The story had all the elements of a blockbuster movie: betrayal, scandal, and the ultimate quest for justice. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get any worse for Jackie, a new bombshell dropped. Whispers of an attempt to bribe Chantel into staying silent during the deposition process. If true, it would be the final nail in Jackie's coffin, proving that her desperation knew no bounds.
To do interviews with Doug.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
Doug, I just thought that was so funny. I mean, the team knew, because whenever I traveled with them, they would see.
Doug's legal battle wasn't just about money, it was about accountability. He wasn't just suing Jackie and Chris for damages, he was demanding a public correction of Chantel's birth certificate, ensuring that the truth was officially recognized. This was about rewriting history, about reclaiming his narrative, and about showing the world that lies, no matter how deeply buried, would eventually come to light. And as the trial continued, one thing became clear. Doug Christie wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for every father, every family, and every person who had ever been betrayed by the people they trusted most.
I just wanted us to have a chance to just sit down and, discuss it.
Chantel's voice silenced the courtroom. Her testimony wasn't just a story. It was a raw, emotional dissection of what it means to discover your entire life has been a carefully constructed lie. She didn't hold back, describing in detail how she felt like a brand accessory in Jackie's never-ending pursuit of fame and relevance. Chantel spoke about the confusion she carried as a child, wondering why Chris Webber, who she thought was simply her Uncle Chris, would sometimes tear up when he looked at her. "I asked my mom once why he acted that way, and she told me he was just an emotional person," Chantel explained, her voice trembling. "I didn't know he wasn't crying because he was emotional. I didn't know it was guilt." The room was frozen as she recounted her childhood memories, moments that now felt tainted by the truth. Chantel revealed that growing up, her life felt like it wasn't entirely hers. Every decision, every event, every family moment seemed to have been choreographed for Jackie's reality TV image. From the outside, their family looked perfect, but Chantel described how she felt like a prop, used to build Jackie's public persona as a strong, loving mother. And now, as the truth unraveled, Chantel was left grappling with her identity. Who was she, if her life was just another storyline in Jackie's quest for fame?
Well, marriage is definitely communication, respect, and that means not just respecting your partner, but also yourself. Intimacy, that's very important.
But Chantel wasn't Jackie's only victim. The spotlight shifted to Chris Webber, a man whose silence spoke louder than words. The courtroom gasped when Chris admitted under oath that he had suspected Chantel might be his daughter for years. "Jackie told me there was a chance," he confessed, his voice low and heavy with regret. "But I stayed quiet. I thought it was best for everyone." Best for everyone? Or best for himself? Chris's decision to remain silent, knowing full well that Doug was raising a daughter who might not be his, was a betrayal in its own right. Some might call it cowardice, others complicity. Either way, Chris's silence wasn't just harmful, it was devastating. And then came the rumor that made everything worse. Doug's legal team hinted at the possibility that Jackie and Chris's relationship wasn't just a fleeting mistake, but a long-term affair that spanned years. Could Chantel's paternity have been an open secret within their NBA circle? Whispers of behind-the-scenes rendezvous and suspicious interactions painted a picture of a betrayal far deeper than anyone initially realized. And if true, this wasn't just a case of paternity fraud. It was a calculated, ongoing deception that made fools of everyone involved. Was Doug the only one in the dark, or were others complicit in protecting Jackie and Chris's secret?
It seems like almost the tables have turned, because with your husband being the professional athlete at first, there might have been a lot of times where you were essentially awaiting his return, but now with you being so busy and him in retirement, does it seem like he's now like calling, trying to figure out where you at or when you're going to make it back home?
Yes, it is. It's funny. The tables have definitely turned. Now my husband hung up his sneakers and he's homeschooling our son. He's like the father wife now, the father housewife instead of the...
Speculation only deepened when former NBA insiders began speaking anonymously to tabloids. One claimed, "People always wondered why Jackie had such a tight grip on Doug. She was in control of everything, and now it makes sense. She was hiding something." Another alleged that Chris had distanced himself from the Christies after their time as teammates, possibly out of guilt. The idea that Chantel's true parentage might have been an open secret in the NBA world was a betrayal not just of Doug, but of the fans who had admired these athletes for years. How deep did this conspiracy go, and how many more secrets were waiting to surface? The courtroom drama didn't stop there. Jackie's alleged attempt to bribe Chantel into silence added a new layer of scandal to an already explosive case. The evidence was damning: a sealed envelope containing $15,000 in cash and a handwritten note urging Chantel to stay out of it. When Chantel handed the envelope over to Doug's legal team, it was clear that Jackie's desperation had reached a boiling point. In a shocking twist, Jackie's lawyer tried to downplay the incident, claiming it was a misunderstanding. But the damage was done. The bribe wasn't just a legal misstep, it was a moral one. And it solidified Jackie's image as a woman willing to do anything to protect her crumbling empire.
This is the dog world out there, especially in reality TV, especially on a show like this. Every man for himself. That's why I always stay a loner on the show, if you notice.
Meanwhile, Chris's reputation continued to freefall. His admission of guilt under oath, paired with Jackie's manipulations, painted him as a man who had allowed himself to be entangled in a web of deceit. Fans who once idolized him were now questioning his character. Could his legacy ever recover, or would the name Chris Webber forever be associated with scandal and betrayal? The media frenzy surrounding the case only added fuel to the fire, with headlines like, "From NBA star to courtroom shame, and Chris Webber's silence cost him everything." Sponsors began pulling out, and rumors swirled that Chris was considering a public apology tour to salvage what was left of his reputation. But would it be enough?
Situation, it doesn't matter, because I got me, regardless. And if you right and your heart is pure, you're always going to win out. And it's good for Malaysia and I to finally be at a place where we really respect each other. We're both Leos. My trust level is very low with people because they always smile and do this, and then next thing you know, they, trying to cut your throat.
And what about Doug? Through it all, he remained a pillar of strength. While Jackie and Chris floundered, Doug's quiet determination turned him into an unlikely hero. He wasn't just fighting for himself, he was fighting for Chantel, and for every father who had been deceived in the same way. His legal team announced plans to push for new legislation that would classify paternity fraud as a major civil offense, giving men like Doug the tools to seek justice. It wasn't just about money, it was about accountability. Doug had been lied to, manipulated, and humiliated, but he refused to let that define him. Instead, he was using his platform to spark change. The case took another shocking turn when the judge hinted that criminal charges against Jackie might be on the table. The alleged bribe attempt, combined with the falsified birth certificate and years of deception, could potentially lead to charges of fraud and witness tampering. If convicted, Jackie could face serious consequences, both legally and professionally. Her once glamorous life was now in shambles, and the woman who had built an empire on lies was watching it all collapse around her. For years, Jackie and Doug Christie were heralded as the ultimate example of a strong, loving marriage. Their annual vow renewal ceremonies were celebrated as a rare glimmer of real devotion in a world dominated by fleeting relationships and scandals. But now, in light of everything we know, those ceremonies take on a much darker tone. Were they truly about love and commitment? Or were they Jackie's way of reinforcing a false narrative to the public, and even to Doug himself? Think about it. Every year, extravagant weddings, lavish receptions, and glowing social media posts painted a picture of perfection. But behind the scenes, was Jackie using these events to distract from the cracks forming in their marriage? Cracks she knew were born from her lies.
You could give one tip to people on what kept your relationship so strong for all of these years, over 20 years. What would you say has been the key to your marriage lasting?
I would have to definitely say commitment and dedication, because you're going to have ups and downs. I'm not saying we've been perfect. We have arguments. It could be over food. It could be over whatever, a misunderstanding of a text, anything. But it's about communication, being able to talk to each other, and having that intimacy. That's why I wrote the book, this one.
Experts in public image have weighed in, suggesting that Jackie's obsession with public displays of love might have been a defense mechanism, a way to overcompensate for the guilt she carried. By constantly renewing their vows, Jackie wasn't just fooling the public, she may have been fooling herself. These ceremonies were more than just celebrations, they were performances. designed to keep Doug and everyone else focused on the image of their relationship rather than the reality. And while Doug participated, perhaps out of genuine love and a desire to believe in their marriage, it's hard not to wonder if he ever felt something was off. Did the man who once gave everything for Jackie ever suspect that these grand gestures were covering up something far more sinister?
Because a lot of relationships is missing that. And that ain't just about that's about being able to know what that other person, thinking for them, knowing what they want. I feel like a woman wants to be treated special from when she wakes up in the morning to when she goes to bed at night. She don't want to be ignored during the day, and then all of a sudden you get into bed and it's like, can we get busy? No, that's not, intimacy starts.
This revelation also raises a broader question about the nature of public personas in the world of fame and reality TV. How many other so-called power couples are hiding behind a facade of perfection, using social media and public appearances to paint a picture of happiness while privately battling betrayal and dysfunction? Jackie's ability to curate her life so meticulously, from the vow renewals to her carefully scripted reality TV persona, shows just how easy it can be to manipulate public perception. But the truth, as we now see, can only stay hidden for so long. With each passing year, her lies grew heavier, and the vows she renewed became less about love and more about survival. What was once marketed as a fairy tale romance now feels like a cautionary tale, a chilling reminder of how far some will go to protect their secrets.
Wake up.
And for a man, what do you do for him? Make him feel special all day.
I would definitely say for women, be his biggest fan. Whatever he's doing, support him in that, whether you like it or not. If there's things you don't like about it, find different ways to compromise and help him and tell him why you don't. Don't just yell and scream and, demand this and demand that. He'll want to be, like Charmaline said, on that leash.
As the trial came to a close, one question lingered. If Jackie and Chris were capable of orchestrating this level of deception for over 20 years, what other secrets might still be buried? Could there be more to this story than we even realize? And what does justice look like for people like Doug and Chantel, who had been used, lied to, and left to pick up the pieces? Let us know what you think in the comments. Does Jackie deserve jail time for her actions? Should Chris Webber's silence be punished just as harshly as Jackie's lies? And most importantly, what would you do if this happened to you? Don't hold back. This is your chance to weigh in on one of the most shocking scandals we've ever seen. Until next time, stay tuned, stay curious, and remember, the truth always comes out.